Hey guys, thanks for stopping by. Let me take you through one of the most talked about shows on Netflix today, Dahmer, the Jef Dahmer story. When it comes to this Netflix series, the world is divided by many ethical dilemmas. On the one hand, the questions are: does watching the series make you celebrate a brutal serial killer? Is it insensitive to the families of the victims? On the other hand, the questions are: does watching this make you aware of the dangers of the world we live in? Nobody can say what is right or wrong. In this review, I'll try to analyze and give you my perspective from various points of view or point of views, whichever is grammatically correct. Correct me. None of what is here in this review are spoilers because this case is well documented and you will find the facts all over the internet. If you don't know who is Jef Dahmer, then Jef Dahmer is a serial killer who murdered 17 men in Wisconsin and Ohio in the United States. He earned the notorious tag of Milwaukee Cannibal or Milwaukee Monster. All of them were young men in the teenagers and early 20s. The common thread between all of them were they were either gays or bisexual. Jef Dahmer was a homosexual himself. Most of those men were men of color, though his first victim was a white man. Jef Dahmer was a troubled child from early childhood, though he did not have an abusive or disturbed childhood. Yes, his parents were not in good terms and fought all the time before separating eventually. He went through the troubles of any normal child whose parents separated, and his childhood was not easy. But there was nothing that justifies his troubled nature. His father taught him how to dissect small roadkill animals, and Jef picked a lot of interest in it. He had always been a weird child and a social outcast, so this hobby was a good distraction. At least, that's what his father thought. Little did his father know that Jef had tendencies that were far more disturbing, which would eventually lead him to killing young men without any control over himself. Between 1978 and 1991, Jef killed 17 men. In fact, after his first murder, he went to join the army. He was released from army due to alcohol abuse and erratic behavior. The body of the victim was still hidden in his house till he came back from the army. He moved on to his grandmother's house where he continued killing. When his erratic behavior became too much for his grandmother to handle, he moved to a black neighborhood where he continued murdering. His grandmother did not know of the murders, but she sensed that something is terribly wrong with this guy. His youngest victim was a 14 years old Laotian boy. Incidentally, Jef served 1 year in prison for sexually assaulting the same Laotian boy's brother. The biggest controversy in Jef's case is how the police let Jef off the hook when they had the perfect chance to nab him. The Laotian boy managed to escape and was secured by the residents of the apartment, heavily drugged and completely not in senses. When the police arrived, the police took Jef's words and assumed that the boy was just drunk and handed him back to Jef, who went on to butcher the boy and then continued his killing spree. Jef realized his privilege and became overconfident till one of his target victims managed to escape and bring the police. Only when the police looked into Jef's bedroom did they find the oddness and realize that something was terribly wrong there. They nabbed Jef without knowing who exactly is being caught. That night, they recovered severed heads and body parts of men in his fridge, freezer, and many skulls of his victims. They recovered photos, killing instruments, and a large drum filled with body parts dissolved in acid. Gradually, the police identified 17 victims. Jef was tried for murder and he was sentenced for 15 years term for every victim. Jef was eventually killed in the prison by another black man named Carver. For the detailed account, I suggest you watch the Netflix series. You may also like to watch the other Netflix documentary series, Conversations with a Killer, the Jeffrey Dahmer tapes. Jef Dahmer is considered as one among the most brutal killers of all time. It is not just the killing, but also what he did with the victims that would make anybody's stomach churn with disgust and terror. He tried to create human zombies by injecting acid into the brain. He was obsessed with necrophilia, but also went beyond that: dismemberment and cannibalism. This is already the second most watched English series in Netflix. There is a section of people who believe this story is not worth telling. This is glorifying a killer and making him a celebrity across the world, which he does not deserve to be. However, the popularity of the show says a different story. It's also unclear whether Netflix had the consent of all the victims' families. From what I read, some of the victims' families did not consent, but Netflix still went ahead with the show. The success of this story reignited the interest of crime memorabilia collectors, and his glasses were listed for $150,000 this month, October 2022. Such is a cult following of this serial killer. Coming to the execution of the series, there is no doubt this is a well-made series. It is one of those series you would binge watch. It is also a series which you will not abandon midway. This 10-episode series stars Evan Peters as Jef Dahmer, who has done a brilliant job as the mild-mannered but the deceptive Dahmer Monster. Chilling is the word that describes his performance. True to the real personality, Evan Peters plays the role of the likable, soft-spoken guy to perfection, while the cinematography and the background score does the rest. Jef Dahmer in person comes across as a clean, good-looking guy who for the normal eyes display no eccentricities of a killer, but the horror he unleashes behind closed doors are unspeakable. It is with remarkable subtlety the show creators have recreated the horror without actually showing violence. The violence is never explicitly shown in the entire series, but the techniques are so effective that you will feel your bones chill. One of the scenes that stays in my mind is the ordeal of the neighbor in the apartment. She could hear what is happening next door and pleads with the police to come. But the police never come because they think she is just an annoying black woman. Therefore, she has to live through the hell knowing what is happening next door, but no one would help her. You cannot help but empathize with her horror. Another instance is at his grandmother's house. His grandmother steps in to save a potential victim and asserts himself in the situation to preside over Jef. You could feel your heart race and pray for that old lady. The creators have done a brilliant job in bringing out these narratives without showing an ounce of violence. The series is not without its flaws that are beyond ethical dilemmas. There are certain creative liberties taken and there are certain deviations from the case. We can live with that. But what is annoying is the indulgence. At times, I felt like there was unnecessary dramatization which came across as trying to rationalize and humanize the behavior. Also, I seriously could not decide whether I should feel sorry for his father or not. I felt a lot could have been avoided had his father been decisive. Instead, he comes to Jeff's rescue every time, knowing that it is going to harm people. Lengthy conversations which in no way adds to the proceeding. It appears like the mandate was to come up with a 10-episode series and therefore they had to fill the empty spaces with something. Without the unnecessary parts, the series could have easily come down to 8 episodes. And lastly, the big debate since 1991. Had the victims not been people of color, would the case have gotten closed much earlier? While there is a good number of people who would say no, that is not the case. I beg to differ here. This was never a case of trying to hide or escape. Jef did all the crimes right under the noses of the police. The crimes continued happening in spite of a victim escaping and reporting to the police. The police make a friendly visit and come back. The crimes continued happening in spite of the neighbor reporting to the police. The black woman complains too much, apparently. The crimes continued happening in spite of Jef having a criminal record and being arrested for sexually assaulting a minor boy. I cannot imagine anyone else of color, particularly black men, get away with things that Jef got away with. The bitter fact was that the police who failed to act were not just reinstated in duty but also rewarded for their God knows what. They may be good men, but good men who failed, which resulted in at least 5 more killings. In my opinion, this is a must-watch series. Look, we do not live in a world where every human is a monster. It is not just an American thing, it happens everywhere. But in any part of the globe, we do live in a biased world where prejudices rule over people's perception, and at times the best defense is from ourselves. If knowing such cases improves the alarm system inside our brain, then I think it is worth the time. Watch the series and also follow it up with the documentary tape. It would keep you engaged for a week. That's it for now, friends. I'll come back with my next review. Till then, bye bye.